Hello, this is Wasabi Boat Research, and today we are talking with Poopster, which is probably one of my favorite DeFi avatars. I assume that's not your real name, and Weeb McGee, and we're talking about a super interesting story, a super difficult story, but I think it applies to a lot of themes that are going on in crypto DeFi right now, and that is the story of the shared stake rug pull. And to give you a really high overview, Shared Stake is a protocol that helps users stake their ETH for ETH2. So normally you need 32 ETH to run a validator node to be validating transactions on the new Ethereum blockchain that is going to launch in about a year. And that's a lot of money. That's, 60, 70K these days. So there are these protocols, Lido, Shared Stake, several others that allow you, say you only have 2 ETH or 5 ETH or 10, to put them in, and they will run this validator node for you and give you some of the rewards that, and taking a cut, but give you some of the rewards that come from that. So Shared Stake is one of these protocols, and they gathered about 16,000 ETH into the protocol and set it up. And then there was a rug pull, a murky situation that we're going to get into more in detail. And some of the native tokens that they were giving out were basically rugged and went to zero or very close to zero, followed by a gradual recovery. And so when something like this happens, it's fascinating to jump into the project Discord and see what's going on. And two people that we're talking with, Poopster and Weeb McGee, were in the Discord helping out, talking to people, answering questions, trying to talk to the devs one-on-one, trying to figure out what's going on, and just trying to create a recovery for people in a time of confusion and when they were trying to figure out what happened to their money. So I want to kind of introduce each one of them, and we're just going to go through what happened as best we can tell, and what's going to happen with the recovery as best we can tell, and what are some lessons learned for users and other DeFi projects going forward. So first, let's start with let's start with me, because I had a small part in this saga. So Shared Stake, a couple months ago, they had a meme competition, like many DeFi projects do, and I'd heard about the project. I had a couple ETH of my own in there, and I started making memes because I thought it was just a fun project, and ended up winning second place in the meme competition, and I got a 20 SGT tokens as a reward for that, which today I just checked is worth about 93 cents. So there we go. There's my disclosure. And Poopster, what about you? You are someone who I see in many different Discords around the DeFi community. So how would you describe your connection to our friends at Shared Stake?
Yes, thanks for having me. And so yeah, a lot of people know that I'm basically in every DeFi Discord server there is, and I'm big in the farming and DeFi community, and I like to try and you know help out as much as I can. So I help out in a lot of different Discord servers um, and work with a lot of different projects, on the community side. So uh, I was around when Shared Stake launched, and as a matter of fact, I had a little bit invested in the pool that was on SnowSwap. So yeah, I've been I'm not a major member of the community or anything. I'm not super active, but I've been around since the project's inception and just kind of watched how everything's been going.
All right, and Weeb McGee, your Twitter avatar, or I think your Discord name, mentions that you're part of the Saddle Finance team. So how did you find yourself involved in this project?
Yeah, first of all, yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I just said I'm an engineer at Saddle, and Saddle is a new protocol on the block that hosts automatic market makers between pegged assets. And, as we're bootstrapping more liquidity in our protocol, ShareStake reached out to us to host their asset, VETH2. So we gladly accepted it since they had an audit. Um, and so I've been just trying to keep up with the protocol in case the LPs get affected in some ways. trying to give more extended support to LPs who use our protocol and are affected by the Sharedstake rug recently.
Got it. And so let's just I like to start these things just to give everyone an overview of the tokens that we're talking about. So let me just go through those and correct me if I say anything wrong. So people start with ETH or wrapped ETH, WETH, and are depositing that into Sharedstake. And as a reward for that, they are getting, or not a reward, but in exchange for that, they're getting a receipt token that is called VETH2, and that is essentially a receipt for the ETH that they have put into this staking contract, and that represents Ethereum 2 that is on the Beacon chain, which is the new version of ETH, the proof of stake version that they are bootstrapping, and that is going to be locked until the new Ethereum blockchain launches, which could be something like a year from now, right? So one advantage of shared stake was that instead of just getting this token and it's locked and you can't do anything with it, that they were going to give you back the ETH2, which you could then use in other places, earn yield and in DeFi. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And there are other services like Lido who does other forms, and then it allows users who have staked ETH in their platform to able to use the receipt token and kind of either trade it or lend it according to the market value of the token at the time.
Yep. And in general, the goal is to have the price of ETH or wrapped ETH be about the same as VETH2, right? Like there shouldn't really be a discount. And if there is a discount, maybe that's representing, some kind of the risk that's additional to VETH2. Would you say that's a good way to think about it?
Yeah, that's correct. And there are other services like Lido who does other forms, and then it allows users who have staked ETH in their platform to able to use the receipt token and kind of either trade it or lend it according to the market value of the token at the time.
Yeah. And but before the rug, I think it was something like zero point 0.8, zero point 0.9 ETH to VETH2, right? So you could get VETH2 at a little bit of a discount.
Yeah, I think currently most, if maybe all of the ETH2 staking tokens, they are slightly undervalued compared to ETH. And I assume that's due to kind of uncertainty of how or when the ETH2 merge will happen and how the withdrawal process will work. What are the fees that the protocol will take upon withdrawing? So there's other risks on top of ETH. So is currently being traded a little bit below peg.
Okay, and so then the second token is SGT, and that is a governance token that the Sharedstake Protocol issued, and you could get that by either buying and staking SGT in their app, or if you were providing liquidity on Sharedstake itself, right? Like you could deposit SGT and VETH2 to put that in Uniswap, and then you're getting SGT as a reward, right? And then they're using that as a governance token to vote on future decisions in the protocol, and they're also using it to pay people for their amazing memes and pay the dev salaries and that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, and I also believe the profits that come from the future staking will have been redirected to SGT holders in some way. And that's probably a common model for a lot of staking services like Lido or other protocols as well.
All right. So are there any other tokens or kind of basics about the protocol that people need to understand to get the story?
I think we covered both assets.
All right. So now let's talk about the players in this drama. So Poopster, I'm going to throw it over to you. Can you introduce us to the characters that we need to know about, who are the devs and the other kind of people in the orbit of shared state?
Sure. Yeah. So, as everybody knows, we've got the two, I guess you would call them malicious devs, known as Kairos and Chimera. And so, and then you have IceBear, who's apparently just the front end dev, right? And wasn't really so much involved in the whole rug itself, and has kind of really um, helped organize the effort to return all the funds. So yeah, so that's the, and then we have several longtime community members who played a big role here. Oranges and some of the other um, community members in the Discord have been very active in trying to help mediate. And I guess that's basically where I stepped in, in this whole deal. I don't want to just go straight into the story unless you want me to, but that's kind of where I got into it as well. Is I wanted to try and help. A lot of people lost a lot of money here, or were going to lose a lot of money, or may lose a lot of money here, and so if I could help it, not to happen, I wanted to try and make that effort, and I felt like I could help. So um, that's where I fit into the whole deal.
Okay, so you've got Chimera and Kairos, who are the two devs, and it seems like we will learn that they have been having a falling out or having increasing tension as they're developing this. And then you have IceBear, and then Oranges, who's more on I guess he's kind of on the econ side. People like DeFi Fry, who are kind of marketing community members. And then you have people like yourself and Weeb, who are kind of working with kind of affiliated or partner protocols or just general members of the community. So then we fast forward, it's June 23. I'm going downstairs to get my coffee and I open up Discord and I see a message from Fry. Please exit saddle and staking contracts and await further updates. That's never a thing you want to see as you're on your Discord for a project that you're in. The team has identified the dev responsible and knows identity. So clearly there's some kind of exploit or rug going on. The market had been tanking for a few weeks, like all DeFi tokens and ETH and Bitcoin are going down. So when that happens, it's kind of like rug season. You kind of start to see protocols who are getting into trouble. You start to see people who are getting liquidated or running into problems in general. So this is in the market cycle when these kind of rugs tend to happen a little bit more often. But what happened? How when you were on the Discord, I think Poopster, you said you were on there that morning too. So you're looking at this, you're trying to piece together what happened. What's going through your head at this time?
Sure, yeah. So I actually was alerted. A friend woke me up and told me what was going on, or sent me a message, pinged me, and so I got up and got to looking around, and these things. We see rugs every day now, but a lot of times it doesn't really hit home until it like happens to you or somebody or your friends or people that you've been in a community with for a while. And so immediately I just jumped into the Discord to see what was going on, same as you. And it took a little while for things to kind of come together. There really wasn't a lot of information at first, until later on. I guess it was morning time for me by then, until Chimera came out and announced that Kairos had pulled the rug, and there was large amounts of funds that were outside the multi-sig, and he got apparently spooked with the recent mark. Anyway, it was a whole. He came out with this whole. I called it a shit show, and then they proceeded to sling shit at each other for the rest of the day. So this whole thing, it's really just it really it's like two devs fighting, and it could have all been avoided. But I feel like there's a lot more to the story that we don't know that's underlying, that may or may not come out, going forward if this ever gets to a court of law or something of that nature. But I think there's a lot more that's underlying this whole thing that we don't really know about, that's going on between the two devs.
Yeah, so I was looking at it, and I'm looking at the token prices. Like the SGT, the governance token, had gone from in the mid dollars to like something like a couple cents, or 4 or 5, 6 cents, and then you see that the VETH2, where you could buy it on Saddle or Snow Swap, had gone down to, I don't know, 4 to 1, something like that, against ETH.
Hmm.
And one they were it seemed like on that first day the devs were Kairos and Chimera were kind of taking turns. Like they wouldn't be on the Discord at the same time. People were saying that they may be the same person. There were all kinds of crazy theories floating around. So when you first heard about the rug, where were you, and what was like your first reaction, first thoughts when you heard this?
Yeah, so I was also alerted by a sudden decrease in the governance token. And I usually have the governance tokens of the projects that Saddle works with on just like a on my watch in case something happens, and that's usually an indication of a like a rug or an asset going kind of compromised. Um, and This one was quite unusual because usually when there is an exploit like this, there is a central communication by the team with a single kind of announcement or a voice that comes out, and um, it really helps when there is such announcement like that. But this was triggered by kind of infighting within the team members, which caused the devs and the community members and the volunteers to come out and say all different things and accuse each other. And that ensued a chaos in the Discord channel, which buried what actually had happened, and people who are looking into the on-chain data. So I wanted to step in and just kind of like straighten things out to link everyone to the relevant transactions to tell them what had happened in terms of a simple timeline. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to come and clarify for the community since it was just too chaotic.
Hmm. And so let's try to get more specific. Like when we're talking about there was a rug that occurred, what was the transaction that actually happened to cause that token to drop, or what was the initial on-chain thing that happened?
Yeah, so Immunify actually released a really good postmortem in terms of the chronology of what had happened. And the root cause of it is one of the contracts that Sharedstake used it to vest the employees' tokens. And the contract is actually originally from Badger Finance's repo. Um, and unfortunately, the audit did not catch the possible attack vector. And what had happened was that they allowed one of the calls you could make as the owner of the contract to bypass the limit on vesting and instantly withdraw all the tokens that they were supposed to get linearly over whatever years. I believe it was 2 years. And yeah, the both devs realized this and they tried to trigger it themselves, which caused a lot of confusion in the community. And I guess that led to both rugging, uh, which is selling the tokens that they withdrew into the market in order to prevent the others from rugging, which doesn't make sense to me. But
So at the same time, they figure out there's a way that they could each get their 2 year salary paid in advance, and there are these suspicions between them that are developing, and so it's almost like a gunfight in the old west, right? So like they're trying to be the first to do it before the other one does it. Is that kind of your understanding?
that is their claim. I'm not really sure what the motive is. I don't. I mean, I wouldn't really trust the words from these devs. But if you look at the on-chain data, that's what it seems like it happened because the both exploit had happened in pretty much like a tight interval. So that's what I suspect
Yeah,
happened.
yeah. So yeah, in addition to the Immunify, there's a each of the two devs, Kairos and Chimera, have each released their own PDF kind of details of what happened. Each is trying to make themselves look good and cast aspersions on the other one. So we'll link to those in the comments. I've kind of read them. I think we've both, all of us have read them a little bit, but don't kind of put a lot of stake in them. And I think, yeah, that's right on to kind of look to what people are doing, look at what's happening on chain. look to who's communicating with the community, who's helping, who's moving things in the right direction. That like those are kind of the right things to be focusing on in a time like this. So the governance token has gone to crap. It's like gone to the single pennies range. VETH2 has gone down quite a bit. It's at like 3 to 1, 4 to 1, and Poopster, you're in the Discord talking to people, and something that starts happening quite early is the doxing of both devs, and it's kind of an interesting thing to talk about because it can kind of cut both ways, right? People are angry, people are doing research, people are trying to find who are the devs that are hiding behind these pseudonym identities, and talking about doing lawsuits and talking about embarrassing these people to their employers and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's a need to fix what can be fixed of the protocol. So how do you think about that? How does doxing help or not help in situations like these?
Well, so that's a great point, and when the devs started doxing each other, I really thought, man, are we in middle school? What is going on here? It just turned into, like I said, it turned into just a circus, and but so I guess you make a good point though that what we could infer, or at least what I inferred from it is, all right, both of these devs are now public to some degree. I think that helps ensure that the ETH will probably at some point be salvageable. And so, like many, and I didn't advise anybody to do this, of course, but I told others that I was doing it, and I was going to start buying it because I felt like that by buying the VETH2, I would have access to the underlying ETH when it's unlocked. And so, yeah, like you said earlier, I think it got down to an incredible ratio, 10 or 12 to 1, something like that. So there's a great deal to be had there. If you're paying attention to these type of things, a lot of people panic sell anytime there's an exploit, and the big brains are looking at that as an opportunity to make profit. And there's always, almost always on all these exploits, there's a dump and then there's a pump. So I mean, even look at what Titan's doing now. So it's crypto and it's wild and it's crazy, but yeah, there's always an opportunity there, and so when you're involved in the communities like we are, and you're around this kind of stuff, you can take advantage of that. But the doxing itself, yeah, I just think that's gonna. I think that pretty much seals the fate of this project. These, like, what else are you gonna do at this point, right? I mean, seriously, put yourself in their shoes. Like, what are you going to do? You don't have many options, right? So that's the reason I saw things going the way that they have so far, and with the help of people, like the community members that have stepped up, and Weeb, and everybody who's set up the multi-sig and everything. Hopefully, it's going to get back to that,
Yeah, so it sounds like the doxing was kind of a key piece of information in your mind that led you to believe that this would probably be more likely to resolve than to kind of just get totally blown up. Yeah, I'll tell you how I was thinking about it. So I think I had about 3 ETH in there before, and I was looking at the price of this too, and I think you and I were chatting, and it was like 3 or 4 to 1, and I said, what is that pricing in? Like a 25% chance that this is gonna work out. And I thought, I don't know if I really want to take that bet. If it gets to 10 to 1 or 12 to 1, then I'm a buyer. And then, because then that's pricing in like a 8% or 9% chance that the ETH actually is recovered, like, right? And so I was thinking, maybe this is closer to a coin flip. So if I'm getting 12 to 1 or 10 to 1 on that, like, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? But like the doxing seems to be the kind of key piece of information that you were focused on there. So let's just talk about what steps you guys took in the recovery. So I love this, Poopster. You were in the Discord, and suddenly I see that you've changed your name to a mediator. So you're talking to trying to DM the devs and DM the team members to find out what's going on. What can you share about your efforts there in on that first and second day?
Yeah, well, like I said, when I jumped in and really things were really heading south quick, and it looked like the devs were going to abscond, and everybody was running, and the whole thing was it was on fire, and so I figured, well, I mean, there's no harm in just trying to talk to them, right? So I separately messaged each of them and said, look, you're in a fucked up situation. I understand that, you need to stop, and you should stop and take a look at like where you're at right now, because shit doesn't look good, and I think that maybe that made both of them kind of realize, or hopefully it did. I'm not sure if it led to anything, but it at least led to some conversations being had. Not so much of the name calling and shit throwing, uh, and we started to actually get things moved along. And like I said, we stepped up and started to, we started to get the multi-sig and all that, everything else put into place. There was a lot of people that really that took action, and all I did was just try to stop them from burning it down, before these guys just took off and ran. And so I think it may have helped a little bit, but in the end, they're still here. So we're at where we're at now, and that's a good thing that we're still talking about it and still moving on.
And Weeb, you were also in the Discord that day, and you're stepping in on the technical side of things. So you're working with a partner who is uh, hosting or not hosting, but you're providing a market for the VETH2 token on your platform. So you're getting involved on the technical side from a affiliated or kind of partner uh, DApp. So how are things looking for you on the technical side? Who are you talking to? What kind of steps were happening in those first couple of days, and what were you trying to achieve when you were talking to the devs there?
Yeah, to me, path forward was relatively straightforward. I mean, of course, we're at the mercy of the two devs who had control over some of these contracts and the keys. But the path to decentralize the control and hand over to either like community multisig or a trusted contract was relatively clear. But it seemed to me at the time the community was not organized at all, and there were still new users coming in asking what happened, and we gotta like help them catch up what happened. And there's also devs like saying all these different things, accusing and claiming different things. So I thought that it's probably the best for someone to jump in, set up a community multisig as soon as possible, and of course get the community's approval for the members as well. And yeah, like to me, the path seemed super clear. We just needed some cooperation from the devs.
And what was kind of the first thing that needed to happen? It seemed like things were moving faster on the SGT token in terms of getting the devs to send that back and stand up the multi-sig. What's the status of the SGT token now? And do you think a lot of people have said that there needs to be a new token? This SGT is compromised. How do you feel the technical path for SGT going forward, or does shared stake even have a future in terms of going forward as a protocol on its own?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as of today, I believe Chimeras, he has sent all the funds that he has taken through the exploit. Kairos has not responded to the request and has gone dark since. But just to speak in broadly, there are about 5 big steps that the community has to take in order to secure everything back to normal. The first one being getting all the funds back from the devs, getting the funds that were extracted from Uniswap and Saddle or Cream or any other AMMs that were affected by the exploit. So first step is to secure that funds into a trusted wallet, such as a multisig or other contract. And the second step is to transfer all the privileges that the dev addresses have to the multisig, such as minting VETH2 or setting the reward rate for certain LPs. So these sensitive functions that affect distribution of SGT or a control of the asset VETH2, once that's transferred to the multisig, then at least the governance token itself becomes secure. And the third part is to figure out how to secure the underlying ETH. And I think that's a bigger question, right? 16,000 ETH, about $32 million. That's not pocket change. And that's a great incentive for even from an ETH2 team to help the team secure the underlying ETH. And I believe there are already conversations happening regarding how to change the withdrawal key. And if you are able to achieve that, we're able to secure that ETH that's underlying to be withdrawn to a trusted wallet, as I said, like multisig or auto contract. And then there are other steps to decentralize the control and kind of separate the community and the dev, such that devs don't have to be trusted in order to trust the protocol. And that happens by kind of layering out this connection such that multisig owns all the controls. The devs actually do all the work and deploy, but transfer the privileges to the multisig, and the community votes on certain proposals, and the multisig supports the community's votes. And in that given setup, the community doesn't really have to trust any devs. The community only has to trust itself, assuming the multisig is representative of the community. So those are kind of the big steps, broad path forward I see. And really, like, achieving that will be a long-term process, but I totally believe that this could be done if the community is really engaged.
And as far as I know, it looks like from browsing the Discord, the new multisig has been selected, and some funds have been transferred to them. But what is the exact status of what they can do? Like, can they mint? Can the SGT, is that secure under the multisig now? Can they mint new VETH2? Is that secure under the multisig now? Or like what is the exact powers that the multisig has now?
Sure. So multisig actually won't be able to create new VETH2, just how the Sharedstake team runs their own minting and depositing kind of a UI setup. But at least it will stop from the devs to writing a malicious contract and thus creating a vector to infinite minting VETH2. So as of today, SGT as a token itself is secure, except SGT that Kairos is holding. And the VETH2 contract should be transferred to the multisig by next week, I believe. But we'll see what happens to that.
Got it. And I've heard this, the situation of the ETH, right? Like, obviously that's the kind of big pot of money that we need to figure out. And someone on the Discord referred to it as Schrodinger's rug. It's like there are these keys or passwords to the ETH2 that were created when that was deployed several months ago, and there's confusion as to who exactly has those passwords, right? And if someone wrote down those keys a long time ago, or if they were shared improperly, there's nothing right now to guarantee that in a year's time they wouldn't be compromised, unless there's this change in the actual way that the ETH2 system works, right? Like, that's something that the whole Ethereum team has to make this new feature in order to change the key, be able to transfer this ETH2 to a new owner, basically. Is that right?
Right. The staking keys that'll be used to trigger the withdrawal in the future can be shared but cannot be changed. And that's as of today. And I believe the ETH2 team, they're looking into some solutions, such as maybe changing the keys or maybe changing the withdrawal address, such that even if, say, Chimera triggers withdrawal, hopefully we can change the withdrawal address before that to be a multisig address. So even if he triggers the withdrawal without the community's approval, it'll just be safely land on the multisig, and we can safely redistribute the original or the holders of ETH2 at the time.
Okay. Poopster, what about you? I think you're more active in the immediate days, but do you have any thoughts about how the community and team are progressing towards this new setup? Like, how optimistic are you that this is going to work out at this point? And I should say we're about 5 or 6 days after the initial rug recording this.
Yeah, just I mean, seeing where we've come from to where we're at now, it's a huge difference. And like I said, you can't give enough credit to the community members that came together and make this happen because it really was a whole group effort by quite a few people. And so it's not over, of course. There's no telling how it could play out. Like I said, I've made my bets, and I think they have a year or so, I guess, to figure it out. And I see it getting done. As far as how does the community move forward, that's another question because there's been some interesting things posted, like in the Discord recently. I didn't know if you want to get into that about another team possibly assuming some risk and kind of taking over for SGT. So, like, what's the future of Sharedstake?
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, I think obviously the elephant in the room is Lido. Crypto Kobe is the kind of one of the people behind Lido, which is the biggest DeFi ETH2 staking. And I know people have kind of brought it up to him, and he's been hopping in the Discord and making some statements on Twitter, like he's looking at the problem. But I don't know to what degree he is involved or thinking about getting involved, or are there other protocols? Do either of you have any intel on that as of now?
Well, like I said, I don't, and I'm not trying to throw Weeb on the spot here, but he mentioned that Saddle had a liability here, and so there's always a possibility there, and I'm not speaking to that. And I'm not throwing that rumor out there. I'm just saying that there's tons of possibilities that any protocol with a strong backing theoretically should be able to come in and help out. You know what I mean? Somebody with a public face behind it or a name or and I think that eventually the token may be able to or some version of it may be able to recover.
Yeah, I think there's a broader question. I mean, just to clarify, I don't think Saddle as a protocol is willing to take the liability and help out ShareStake as like a core like member of ShareStake, but as an individual, for me, I'm willing to help out as much as I can, as far as it's not like as far as it's not illegal, right? And I think that's kind of true for a lot of protocols as well. Like as you said, a crypto Kobe from Lido. I don't think Lido has given an official statement about this, but I am sure that all the developers around different protocols are really willing to help this out, trying to resolve that $32 million to be safely get back to their users.
All right, so I think we've covered everything that we know about the resolution so far. There's on Discord, as I'm recording this, there's talk that there's going to be an official postmortem by the team coming out. So maybe by the time this is up, that will be out. But I think now it would be good to kind of move on to take a step back and think about lessons learned for several different categories of people. So I'm really interested, first and foremost, in the users, right? So as a DeFi user, people like me who are not technical have a big challenge in having to take a look at one of these protocols, maybe go in the Discord, maybe see some stuff on Twitter, see stuff that's more marketing material, and have to kind of discount the technical risk that is embodied in each of these protocols. So I don't know, how, as a developer, how do you think about what users need to be looking at? Are there any red flags? Are there any things that that they should be positive about? What can a user do to kind of assess the risk of a protocol like this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really difficult question, and it applies to all the DeFi protocols that exist currently. And it really has to do with the fact that users are directly interacting with the contracts. There's no protection layer for people who are not as technical. If they say like make a typo or if they click a wrong button, there's really no way to get the funds back, right? Like there's no support channel that you can go talk to. There's no way to recover it. So I would say the best way for users to assess those kind of risks is to stay informed. monitor the official channels of these protocols. Try to talk to developers that you know or that you maybe could ping to, hey, like there's this protocol and what do you guys think? There are a couple services like Rugdoc, I believe, on Twitter. They do a lot of extensive reviews of the farm contracts. But as far as how the underlying risks, especially like how the given setup, like are they using multisigs? Are they using unverified contracts? Those ones is a little bit, I think, difficult for an average DeFi user to kind of identify, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the other point to think about, I mean, Shared Stake had an audit that they passed, right? And then this
Correct.
exploit was not caught. It was caught later as part of a bug bounty. So even audits are, some level of security, but they're not the holy grail.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, audits definitely do help, but it shouldn't be the only means to say like, hey, this protocol is 100%
The
secure.
other thing, I mean, I'll just speak to kind of my thought process. Like I said earlier, I had a few ETH in this and was thinking about putting more. And then I started listening to a lot of Chris Bleck podcasts, and he, if you're not familiar with him, he's running a project called DeFi Watch, and his whole mission is to kind of expose the vulnerabilities in DeFi projects where maybe Ethereum as an ecosystem, the blockchain of Ethereum is extremely secure, but if you're a developer, you can create any kind of backdoors to smart contracts that you deploy, or you could say you have a multi-sig, but that multi-sig could just be 5 different wallets that are all the same person, or there are all number of risks that can be can lead to rugs and hacks and all this sort of stuff in DeFi. And even though Ethereum itself is extremely secure, so one thing that I was thinking of is Sharedstake hadn't really released any kind of verifiable claims as to was there a multi-sig under the original ETH, or what was the security layer on top of that, right? And that was kind of a point that I was focusing on, and said, oh, maybe I'm happy with my few ETH in here, but maybe look to somewhere else, or maybe just not stake at this point. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that? Like, especially where at points where DeFi touches other protocols or things that are outside of DeFi, like what are the kind of points of risk to be looking at in that?
Yeah, I personally think Chris is a little bit more on the stricter side of how the multisig are formed and what are the risks involved with it. But it is true that when you're trusting a multisig, it's essentially the same thing as trusting people, right? Not the code. So the risk from there can't really be assessed just through by reading code. It just has to do with the reputation and how willing the person would be to rug. Are they known? Are they anonymous? And those stuff have to be factored in when you're trying to assess whether the multisig is secure. And as a new protocol, this is really hard to achieve since, like, first, if it's just all the anon devs, how do you know, as you said, are they all the same people? Are they known figures? If you choose to do a community side multisig, how do you know if the community multisig is not just same thing, just anon users, or maybe even the devs acting like they're a user, right? And really, the only solution to this is to have a multisig from other protocols that are already established. But it's also like a chicken and egg problem here. So at the end of the day, if you're relying on multisigs, you have to trust some people, some humans. So
Got it. Poopster, let me ask you this. So I know we were talking about our kind of trading strategies as we were looking at this situation and going in. I think there are lessons learned for people who are looking for opportunities in times of crisis and rug pulls, and kind of when there's blood in the street, when the shit hits the fan. These can also be opportunities to kind of for alpha, if you can kind of quickly get in there and size up and handicap what's going on. So I don't know. Do you have any reflections on that? What are some ways that you look for alpha in times of chaos?
Well, as terrible as it is to say, I mean, that's the thing is that somebody's profiting from it. So there's always profit to be made. Like I said, a lot of the time it's if you're involved in the rug pull, a lot of the time it's just don't freak out, man. Don't freak out and sell everything immediately. A lot of the time, if you're sitting on the sidelines, it's trying to catch that bottom. But it's fun to speculate and all. At the end of the day, I think it's really the best part, or the best thing about like having a community here in Discord and having so many friends and people that I know is that, like I said, I was alerted to this early by somebody who was, happened to be up and saw it, and same thing with like Weeb said. So, I think that there's something to say for, a lot of us put together like our private little Discord groups or Telegram groups or whatever. So there's a lot of value in things like that, and knowing people in the communities, and being, networking. So there's always, I tell people all the time, man, there's alpha out there everywhere, and it's usually right in front of our face, and we're usually ignoring it. The teams and the developers will put it right out there for us. You just gotta know you gotta know who to pay attention to. But having a group of friends that can help you do that has been an amazing tool for me. So that's my advice. Find a group of people and share information with them.
Yeah, just to add on top of that as well, I believe Mark Cuban actually addressed this sort of problem back when LCX incident happened with their AL ETH. And this is like an ongoing problem with all the DeFi protocols, right? The users are decentralized, but the com channels can't be decentralized. It has to come from like a good source. And then if that is not achieved, then there's information asymmetry, which leads to the people who have more connections and networks to hear about the opportunities first. And this may be another topic or a broader discussion, but I believe like that's probably going to continue on for until we kind of resolve how do you talk to your users at different time zones, different information, a background, and that's also another challenge for DeFi.
What about on the technical side of things? Like, I think a big element in this situation was devs who maybe hadn't worked together very much or didn't trust each other. A lot of times as a developer or working in these DeFi protocols, you're working with people that you've never met or are an avatar. So what on the dev side of things, Weeb, do you think any lessons are learnable from this situation, either technical or kind of within protocols?
Yeah. So if you're a developer who's getting contacted by different protocols to try to hire you, I think my suggestion would be first try to talk to them and try to, if can, try to talk to them face to face over Zoom or any other calls, and don't go for the protocols that are offering you the most shares and most money. Try to find people that you would love to work with, right? You genuinely have some kind of connection, and you genuinely believe that person can help you out, and you can help that person out. And of course, do extensive research on their background as well. What kind of projects they've worked on before? Were there any like malicious actions happened in the protocols? What kind of companies they worked at before? And talk to people who know them as well, and try to get a sense of who you're working with really. And try to have that insight before you actually accept any offers.
And the last category I think that we should talk about are the sort of influencers. So when I first saw this, obviously running through my mind was, okay, I was making memes for these guys. I was helping promote this. Am I responsible for this in some small way? And I was thinking about how did I first get acquainted with Sharedstake, and I'm thinking, people like Gabriel Haynes, Crypto Yield Info. There are a lot of these kind of Twitter personalities in crypto that you hear about and see, learn about new projects from. And I know Gabriel posted a couple videos talking about, what that feels like. and I really empathize with that. How shitty that must feel when there's a rug, and as someone on the outside, you're not really, you know, in the day to day. You have no way of verifying a lot of this stuff, right? Like you're under the same uncertainty as a user or a dev or anyone else. But I don't know. How do you think about that as someone who, we're all on Twitter, we're all posting about projects. What is the responsibility or the lesson learned from people who are communicating and telling other people about these projects? Is there anything, Poopster, that we can take away from this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's all this is still DeFi, and it's like, man, this stuff's gonna happen, and that's just part of the risk that we're assuming. So, it's I understand like some people have felt responsible, and like I've been in the situation before because I've told friends about farms that that I was in that got rug pulled. So I can definitely understand that. Like it's a bad feeling, man. You hate to see anybody lose money, you really do. Um, and there's a lot of money at stake, man. And to some of these people, this is their a lot. It could be their life savings, and so um, people. I think that more people just need to understand the risks going in and assume more personal responsibility. At the end of the day, it's not on an influencer or a shill or anybody that tells you anything about it. It's on us to do our own research, and I'm like, I agree with Weed, that you really need to be informed about what's going on, and you need to understand this stuff because people are taking advantage of people every single day, and it's going to continue to happen, and they're going to find new ways. So you just got to try and stay on top of it.
Weeb, any final thoughts on the sort of ecosystem influencers, what people should be aware of before they ape into projects?
Yeah, to me, it's kind of really difficult to say the influence should be held accountable for even things that reviewers or auditors didn't catch. And obviously, if you're listening to auditors and reviewers and you trust them, um, it's not like you have any ill intentions about that, right? So for me, it's really hard to say like, oh yeah, the influencers should be held accountable or like they should be held blamed for what had happened. But yeah, like as a user, even if there's a strong consensus about a project that is safe, um, try to do your own research. Try to stay skeptical about everything. Try to stay open minded, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think back to something that Crypto Yield Info said. His whole philosophy is to spread risk. He's in a lot of these super aggressive farms, but he's in there with a fraction of his, total bankroll, right? And in any kind of gambling situation, with a, high expected outcome or high variance, like you don't want to go in with your full stack on anything, right? Like I think that's a good lesson to be learned here. And and I don't know. Yeah, it's really a shitty situation. And it really sucks to hear the people in there who have lost large amounts of money. But I think there's also something really cool about how DeFi works, how people who are just members of the community and people who are, allies or in allied protocols can kind of come in and step in like you guys have to try to fix things and try to recover the most that is recoverable. So I would just say to both of you, thanks for doing what you did, and we look forward to seeing how this plays out. I will definitely be keeping an eye on it, and we'll post in the show notes links to all of the resources that we talked about, the PDFs by the devs and the bug report and all that stuff. But finally, where can people, if they want to follow you, learn more about what you guys are up to? Poopster, is there a place people can go to connect with you?
Anybody can find me on Twitter at 0x Yield Farmer, or if you're in any of the discords with me, feel free to reach out, ping me, DM me at any time. I'm always around. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach out, feel free. It's Poopster on Discord. Sorry, yeah.
Poopster, you can't miss him on Discord. And Weeb, what's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, same thing. Twitter.com/weeb_McGee. I'm also in a bunch of different protocol discords, and I've definitely seen Poopster multiple times. At this point, I don't really know where I saw him originally, but he's just in every Discord.
Be everywhere.
You gotta be.
Well, Poopster, Weeb McGee, gentlemen, thank you for your time today, and let's all wish the Sharedstake folks best of luck, and hopefully we'll have some good news coming out of this soon.
Yeah, great. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Thanks, Weeb.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for having the time to discuss this today.
Thanks, guys.